and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. So we are finally here after delaying this because of, first COVID shot and whatnot. This game should have been done, but we are finally here recording it on Friday night, April 16th. You guys have seen how both of these guys have got all the way to the final. Look, like last year, Michael Van Zandt got an easy ride. He missed out on a game. Both of these guys played every single game this season, and it's only fair, right, that they made it all the way here to the final. It should be a great episode. We saw last game, Mike Thomas took on Luke McLung of the Dupree Brothers, and you guys heard that episode, at least I would hope. Mike absolutely crushed it with his knowledge, and then the game before that, Ricky got his revenge on Michael Van Zandt, which was not a high-scoring game, and so it made me feel, okay, look, should I change questions up? Should I make it easier? I was like, nah, it's only fair if I ask just random questions for Mike, and wouldn't you know, Mike just absolutely destroyed it. So tonight, we're just going to focus on American players for the Union, and so I would like to welcome on Mr. Mike Thomas and Ricky Zellefrow. How are you guys doing?
Doing great, Todd.
We're here again.
Yeah, finally, right? After
one more round than last year.
Our pre-show chat ended up with me drinking more beer than not. So I think Ricky was just trying to prolong it to get me drunk and dull my senses.
Is it having any effect yet, Mike, or you think your knowledge is still there?
I don't know. This is a Larimer milkshake IPA, and maybe that being that close to the practice fields will send me some extra luck.
Let's hope for your sake, right? But yeah, super excited to have you guys here, and I honestly cannot believe in year 2 of doing this podcast. I guess technically I've been doing it for a year, but second season covering the Union, and second season doing the trivia podcast, and it's crazy that we're here, and the season's starting on Sunday. And we'll see if season 3 comes back. I would love to. I know last season people were like, "Oh yeah, I'll show up." I'm like, "Great, let's extend it to 22 teams." And wouldn't you know, couldn't get 22 teams and struggled to get 16. So if people want to participate, don't joke. Like, look, one of these guys are gonna walk away with some Union swag. I said a jersey, but I said, both of these guys have a ton of jerseys. So if they want something else from the Union team store, just let me know, and we'll get it worked out. Or if Mike, always says, I steal everything from you, Todd. I win every competition that you have, every giveaway. So I'll donate a jersey or whatever. So we shall see, right? But man, that game on Wednesday, I'm kind of happy that we didn't record on Tuesday because we can talk a little bit about that game on Wednesday night. And what a game it is. The Union's first time in the CONCACAF Champions League. We know they go down to Saprissa, win that game 1-0. Kai Wagner and Leon Flack, Jose Martinez and Baizu, all excellent on the night. Come this Chester, our first game, seeing these guys playing in person in CCL. And what do? 0-0 at halftime, and then just come down in the river end like they do so many times and score a lot of goals. And they scored 4 on the night. So just what a game it is. And your guys' thoughts on the Union's first game and second game, I guess, technically, in CCL. And now we face Atlanta.
Yeah. Well, for starters, it was just awesome being back in the building after such a long break. Just felt good to be back. I think the Union are putting a lot of fears and concerns at rest. They really, granted, Saprissa was pretty depleted and were down to begin with, but they really sort of imposed their will, played the game they wanted to play. Even in the first half, even though they didn't get any goals, they still looked good. I know Mbaizo was a concern for me, but no longer. I think he missed a little bit of steadiness out of Gaddis, but he definitely makes up for it in his offensive ability. I think we're seeing Flack as a new guy's fitting in. Montero had an incredible game, so it's everything you could want leading up to our game this weekend against Columbus. It'll be interesting to see how they do on the road against what should be a much better team. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad the season's finally underway.
Yeah, just throwing it out there. If you guys didn't listen to the last episode, 2-11-2 or 2-11-1 in Columbus all time. So yeah, just throwing it out there. But I don't know. Look, the Union definitely surprised me how well they played against Saprissa, and I said it last episode too, and I'm sure we'll probably talk about that multiple times tonight. Look, we know Saprissa had COVID issues. They had players that played in Europe, and Costa Rica said, look, you guys can't travel. You guys got to stay in the country. And so Saprissa went with the squad that they had available. And look, for the first 45 minutes, they did well to keep that game 0-0 to go into halftime. And probably they feel like they were a little bit unfortunate to concede a penalty so early on in that game, which I missed, coming back late in the second half. But saw Jamiro Montero score the penalty. Didn't see how it happened until after the game. But Jamiro Montero as a 10 stole the show during the game at night. 2 goals, 2 assists. I've said it so many times on this podcast. I like Jamiro so much better as a number 8. I feel like we get so much more from him defensively. But you did see against Saprissa, like he was leaving the number 10 spot quite often, chasing back on defense, winning back the ball. Him and Jose Martinez, brilliant at winning the ball back for the Union. And I don't know, is Jamiro's spot going to be the number 10 more than what we think it's going to be?
Don't do this to me, Todd. Do not.
Because if I do this, that means Anthony Fontana is going to the bench, right?
To me. Now, actually, I feel like you could perfectly normally go Jamiro at the 10 and Anthony Fontana at the 8, and nobody would notice a difference. But I think inherently, when in an interview at the beginning of the season, you're like, Anthony Fontana is the number 10, you can't 2 weeks later be like, you know what? Actually, I'm going to move him somewhere else. Now, as we all know, I am the president of the fan club here, so I don't have the, I don't know, I'm an English major, I should remember what I'm talking about. I have a bias here. Anthony Fontana gets, I can't say that. I do not want to say what I was going to throw out there. If you've read my Twitter feed, you might know where that was headed. Anthony Fontana is obviously my favorite player, and he's been so good for the last 6 months. You can't just suddenly be like, he's the number 10, and then 2 weeks later, you know what, Jamiro is our best player, so we're going to push Anthony Fontana out. And I think the other thing is, I am of the opinion, and I said this a little bit Wednesday night at the game, that I think Leon Flack, even if he's like a short term, he's coming over here to get back to Europe eventually, like Kai Wagner essentially did. I think he's been signed as a replacement for Alejandro Bedoya in the long term, even if he's only here for 2 years, because let's face it, Alejandro Bedoya is a little bit old, and his game is around being the engine of the team, essentially. And
Blue guy, you called him.
Yeah, that was a whole podcast we had. I remember that now. And it's just like, we all love Alejandro Bedoya, and I think a lot of what's been said around this team is that he's one of the big reasons that this team is so good and works so well together. You have that captain that builds the team, essentially, and make sure a new guy comes in. This is where the buck stops, and you're going to follow the rules that we have here. And that's like, we want a supporters shield, 3 years after Bedoya comes here? So many of these players come in, and I think we give so much credit to Ernst and Jim, but I feel like we didn't give a lot of credit to players like Bedoya and Gaddis and all of them being leaders in the locker room for so long, because they were here when this team was terrible. Anyways, back to the point. Anthony Fontana is the number 10 on the field and in my hearts right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Look, it is strange, right? Jim Curtin says about 2-3 weeks ago, yep, Anthony Fontana has the keys to play the number 10. Jim did say in the first leg, he's like, look, Jamiro Montero thrives in these big games, these big moments as a number 10. And then he goes and gets 2 goals, 2 assists. And how do you pull a guy out from the number 10 who you didn't spend DP money on a player that produces as much as Jamiro Montero did at the number 10 against Saprissa? Look, Lucas Zellefrow, he was $6-7 million for Columbus, maybe a little bit more. We paid $2 million for Jamiro as a number 8, which is fine. I'm fine paying $2-3 million for those kind of guys, and put Jamiro Montero in as the number 10, and he goes out, gets 2 goals, 2 assists. And it's really hard for me to see Jim say, okay, look, Sergio Santos, we'll give you 45 minutes against Columbus. Anthony, you go play the number 10. Jamiro, you go play the 8. When Leon Flax played so good against Saprissa the first 2 games, and Jamiro Montero played so well against Saprissa. And isn't this game against Columbus a big game? Isn't this a big moment? Because look, let's face it, even though it is the first game and so much can happen, couldn't we be sitting here near the end of the season and saying, look, if we would have picked up 1 point, if we would have picked up 3 points against Columbus, we could have been the number 1 seed. We could have been the number 2 seed. So I would say this is a really big game for us on Sunday, even though it is the first game in the season, because we know Columbus is going to be right there with us most of the season, fighting for the 1, 2, potentially 3 spot, even though I don't think Columbus is going to lose the East this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? And I mean, the great thing about both Montero and Fontana is they are versatile, right? So, I mean, to your point, like if Santos isn't ready to go, maybe Fontana is up alongside with Casper to start the game or something. And then we have the flexibility to make a substitution potentially in the midfield, and Fontana can drop back as like Santos were to be subbed on. And then there's also the other element, right? We sort of were sold last season, if you remember, that Montero would be the 10. I mean, he's wearing the 10 on his back. And then Aronson really sort of took over, but there was some degree of interchange between the two of them. So I wonder if we do end up seeing a little bit more interchange between Montero and Fontana as the game flows and progresses. Maybe even more so than we saw between Aronson and Montero last year. Because even in that game against Saprissa, you did see Montero going out wide when necessary in quite a few situations. So I'm wondering if the two of them can create some sort of dynamic relationship going forward where we can have them both on the field, or, you know, even in a scenario where we switch to a 5-man midfield in some capacity and keep both of them on, and also have Flack in the mix and Bedoya in the mix, right? So, I mean, the great news right now is we have a lot of players that can adapt to the situation at hand, right? So it's just how do we best execute that, and is Jim reading the situation appropriately to position them appropriately?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, having depth is a problem every team wants to have, right? I mean, you can never have enough of it. So whether it's Jamiro at the 10, whether it's Anthony Fontana at the 10, you know, look, even last year, I remember Jim was talking, yeah, we could try to put Kasper Schubelka as a 10. Like, he has qualities to play 10. I don't want to see that. Let's keep him farther up the field. But this roster is flexible. We've seen it so many times last year in 2019 where they're switched to the 4-2-3-1. They have the potential to go to 5 in the back with 3 quality center backs and Finley, Glesnes, and Elliott. Look, we won at 3 in the back last year with McKenzie, Elliott, and Glesnes. It never happened. But look, there is flexibility in this team, and it's can Jim get the most out of these players? And he showed last year he can, and let's hope that he can continue it. Now, again, look, Saprissa depleted by injuries, so we'll see what happens in the league. We'll see what happens against Atlanta, but so far, so good. This team is performing well after not scoring any goals in preseason. That's why I don't understand Union Twitter when they flip out in the preseason, because I feel like every preseason, the Union always play bad in the preseason, and people are like, oh, that's it. That's the season. We're not making the playoffs, like, right off the season, and it's like, relax. Like, they're clearly working on things in the preseason to see what works, what doesn't work, but no, fans take it as, oh, yep, we're going to suck. We can't score a goal, but here they come out in 2 games, score 5 goals. But let's go ahead and go to the first category, 5 and 25. And like I said, the category for this show is going to be Americans who have played for the Union. And so for 5 and 25 tonight, we're going to be dealing with Americans that played for the Union in 2016. So for 5 and 25, contestants will answer 5 questions in 25 seconds. The clock starts after I read the first question. If a contestant doesn't know the answer, they can say skip, and we can go back if the time permits. Each question will be worth 2 points each. And let's go ahead and start with Mike again, like we started with you last episode. You did so well. You went 8 for 10 last episode, so I feel like, you have a pretty hot hand in this category. Why not go back to you, Mike?
Well, I don't know. 2016 was pretty rough. I may have blocked a lot of that out of my memory.
Yeah, it was a bad year. Had to wait 2 more years until we started to see some progress from this team. But let's go ahead, Mike, to your first question, which is, out of Marquez, Sapong, and Pontius, who had the most minutes played?
Sapong.
Which American had the most goals?
Sapong.
Which American was fouled the most?
Pass.
Which American led the Union in minutes played?
Carroll.
Which American led the Union in headed goals?
Pass.
Oh, and there is the buzzer. So, yeah, tough questions, and yeah, you were not kidding, Mike. You completely have 2016 out of your mind. Thank goodness we're not asking you anything else from 2016. So let's go to that last one, which was, which American led the Union in headed goals? Chris Pontius was the answer. He had three goals, headed goals on the season. Which American led the Union in minutes played? The answer would be Keegan Rosenberry. He had 3,060 minutes, the only Union player to play every single minute in 2016. Question number 3, which American was fouled the most? So number 2, you said CJ Sapong. You should have said CJ Sapong right here. He was fouled 71 times in 2016. Which American had the most goals in 2016? This is a player I talked about in earlier episodes. That would be Chris Pontius. He had 12 goals on the season, led the Union in goals. And out of Marquez, Sapong, and Pontius, who had the most minutes played, I was surprised by this. It was Richie Marquez. He had 2,970 minutes. Pontius had 2,571. And then CJ had 2,535 minutes played. So over 5 there, Mike, which means 0 points. So you were right. 2016, don't remember it at all.
Oh, well.
But Ricky, so you saw how Mike did. You saw the questions that I'm asking in 2016. So are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. And your first question is, out of Trebet, Bedoya, and Gaddis, who played the most minutes?
Bedoya.
Which American had the most assists?
Keegan Rosenberry.
Which American committed the most fouls?
Marquez.
Which American led the Union in yellow cards?
Marquez.
Which American led the Union in penalties?
Against or scored?
Scored.
Sapong.
Right there on the buzzer, so it is CJ Sapong. The only American player to score a penalty for the Union in 2016. He had 1. Question number 4, which American led the Union in yellow cards? That would be Brian Carroll. He had 6 on the season. Question number 3, which American committed the most fouls? That would be CJ Sapong. So he had the most fouls against, and he committed the most fouls with 44. Which American had the most assists? That would be Chris Pontius as well. So he led the Union in goals, and he led the Union, Americans, with 4 assists on the season. And then out of Ken Trebet, Bedoya, and Gaddis, who played the most minutes, and that would be Ken Trebet. Because Bedoya came in during the summer of 2016, so Ken had 1,726 minutes, Bedoya 844 minutes, and Gaddis 514. Yeah, Gaddis, I feel like hardly got any time at all in 2016, and so yeah, Ken would be that player. But Ricky, you went 1 for 5, picked up 2 points. So look, it seems like 2016 was neither one of your guys' strengths, and you guys don't have to worry about 2016 anymore because the next category is going to deal with 2014 Americans. So a little bit later, so let's see what you guys can do. But before we get into that category, look, I forget who it was on Twitter. Sorry for not giving you credit. But I'll go and look after I hear what you guys said. They were talking about who are the 5 Union players all time you would put on there. And I'm not going to have you guys give me the players that are number 5 on your list and everything. The only thing I will say is people were talking about, obviously, Sebastian Latou's up there, Andre Blake. But the one name I was not seeing anybody talk about was Kai Wagner. Now, in your opinion, Mike, I'll go to you first. Could you say Kai Wagner is a top 5 Union player all time?
Pure talent, he may be in that mix, but I don't know that he has the longevity yet, right? Like, it's almost like the Boric Dochkol, although Kai's been here longer than Dochkol, but like, for me, when I think of like a quintessential Union player, you need that mix of talent and longevity. So, although Kai's not there yet, maybe in, I don't know, in an extra year or two, he starts to break his way into that conversation. I mean, he's definitely, the last few years, been arguably one of the best left backs in the league. I don't think he's really getting the recognition that he deserves for it from a league standpoint. But, I mean, if he continues at the rate he's been and stays on the Union, he'll definitely be in that conversation one day, yeah.
Yeah, that's if he doesn't get sold in the summertime, because I brought this up, and the Twitter account that tweeted this was @SexySeason. Come on, like, everybody uses these handles behind, which is cool and everything, but I like interacting with people who actually put their names out there, like you guys. Not saying anything wrong with it, but I feel like you connect on more of a personal level, but that's not for everybody. But look, I shared the article before the Union played New England. Kai Wagner did an interview with Kicker and basically said, my focus right now is to win MLS Cup with Union, but by January, July at the latest, I want to be back in Europe. And so, look, if Kai keeps up the way that he's playing now, I don't see why he can't be in Europe. I mean, it's going to suck, but we have Matt Real, who's right behind him, who I feel comfortable with. We saw what he did against LAFC, which feels like that was 10 seasons ago. But to Kai's credit, look, he knows he's not going to get caught up to the Germany national team playing in MLS. And in my opinion, he does have a shot to play for the German national team. Nobody's stopping him. Germany doesn't have a left back. So if he goes to one of these mid-table teams ever in Europe, performs well like he has the last few seasons with the Union, I don't see why a 24-year-old Kai Wagner can't get caught up to the German national team, which would be so crazy for us Union fans to say, look, this young kid came to Philadelphia Union from Europe, was out of chances in Germany, resurrected his career with the Philadelphia Union that eventually got him all the way up to represent the German national team. It would be so crazy if that happened.
It would be something to see for sure. I mean, he's oozing with talent, and the way Ernst was able to pluck him out of that lower divisions of Germany, it's really a testament to his entire scouting network, right? So, I mean, I'm not convinced that situation's going to happen, right, where he ends up playing for Germany. But I mean, he certainly has. He's young and he has a career ahead of him for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Ricky, do you think Kai Wagner is a top 5 Union player of all time?
It's a great question that I'm definitely not hearing for the first time right now, and I feel like let's think about this in a logical sense. We've got Sebastian Lattou, we've got Brian Carroll, Ray Gaddis. Is that a crazy statement from anybody? I feel like he's a really good player, but my big issue is if he's only here for, let's say, 2 years already and then a third year and probably gets sold this summer, end of the year is my thinking. I don't see that it can't be a thing, but at the same time, I think we're going to look back on players like Mark McKenzie and let's say, for instance, Brendan Aronson a little bit more than we are going to look at Kai Wagner. And I think a lot of that might just have to do with a few things. Is that let's look at last year. Matt Rail played half of the season essentially, and there wasn't that big of a drop off. And we look at some other players that have had similar situations over the year, and eventually they go on, and it's like Keegan Rosenberry was pretty good for a season and a half, right? But like only certain people even think of Keegan Rosenberry at this point because Ray was pretty good for a full year, and now Mbaizo's doing things that neither of them were ever going to do on the field. I feel like that's a really hard question to answer in the moment. And like looking right now, I feel like Montero could be in that conversation. Bedoya is obviously going to be in that conversation. I didn't even mention him earlier because for me personally, it's like players that are currently on the team, you shouldn't be allowed to be like, oh, this guy is like our greatest striker of all time. If like Sergio Santos spends the next 5 seasons here, he would definitely be part of our greatest players of all time list. But like right now, I'm just like, it's just really hard to differentiate between history and the moment. And I think we just gotta take a few seconds and be like, he's here right now. He's doing well right now. We're probably trying to sell him. He's probably having conversations there. And it'll be a big loss, but I think in the same conversation as McKenzie and Aronson over the offseason is we've already got the replacement. It's not like we're going to lose somebody and then actually, and this goes out to everybody on Twitter, actually be in a problem situation at that position, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is interesting, right? So, like to your point, Ricky, it's almost like if it's that short time frame that you're suggesting, it's almost like a Barnetta, Nogueira type legacy if he ends up leaving preemptively. So, I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's go ahead to true/false. Now, everybody should know what that means because it's really self-explanatory. But I'll ask the contestants 5 questions each. Each question is worth 1 point each. Again, sticking with American players, but this time it's going to be 2014. So let's stick with Ricky. Your first question, Ricky, is true or false? Andrew Wagner led all Americans in goals.
False.
Yeah, it is false. That answer would be Connor Casey with 8. Question number 2. True or false? Connor Casey was the first American to score in 2014.
False.
You want to take a stab at it and guess who was?
2014.
Yep.
Jack McInerney.
Yeah, it was. You know what team? Think home. First game of the season.
Was that a question?
That's your third question. Now it was Portland. So yeah, you're right. Got that one right. Jack Mack was the player, not Connor Casey. Question number 3 though. The Union had 2 Americans score braces in 2014.
True.
That is indeed true. That would be Wagner and Connor Casey. Question number 4, though. True or false? Maurice Adu was the first American to score in the 2014 U.S. Open Cup for the Union.
False.
That was actually true. He scored in the 89th minute when the Union were about to lose this game again to Harrisburg City Islanders, and then Adu scores in the 89th minute, ties this game up 1-1, and the Union eventually go on to win in extra time 3-1, and then we all know they eventually go on and lose the Open Cup Finals, unfortunately. But question number 5, your last one, Ricky. True or false? Danny Cruz led all Americans in yellow cards.
False.
Yeah, that is false. That would be the player we were just talking about, Maurice Adu. He had 5 on the season. So not bad at all, Ricky. You went 4 for 5. That gives you 6 points. So, Mike, time to play catch-up right here. And your first question is, true or false? Connor Casey led all Americans in assists.
Let's go true.
False. So it would actually be Andrew Wagner. He had 4 on this season. Question number 2, though. True or false? Out of the Union's 10 wins, it saw 7 Americans score in them. So the Union, they won 10 games, and Americans scored in 7 of those.
True.
Yeah, it is true, right? I mean,
Okay.
it's like it seems way too random for me to make up.
I'm on
So
the board.
yeah,
I'll
there you
take
go.
it.
1 point now. Now you can be done. Which is so crazy because the Union, they lost 12 games that season, and you knew more times than not when an American player scored, the Union were going to win a game in 2014. And so they lost 12, like I said, and only 5 times when an American player scored did the Union lose. So, like I said, more times than not, when an American scores, that means that the Union are going to win. But 2014, yeah, it's a year to forget for us. But let's go ahead to question number 3 for you, Mike. True or false? Akugu, Wagner, and Cruz more goals combined than Latu.
In 2014, I think that's true.
That is false. So Seba had 12, and all 3 of those guys had 11. So yeah, I was like, okay, let's add some more players, make it seem like these 3 would have scored more. And yeah, Seba had 12 on the season. Let's go ahead to question number 4. True or false? Akugo led all Americans in minutes played.
He was probably playing center back.
He was.
So true.
It's false.
Oh,
Ray Gaddis led all Americans in minutes played that season.
Ray.
Yeah, I know,
And
right?
then he didn't get any minutes in 2016?
Right. Come on, Ray.
Because of Rosenberry, huh?
That man really needs to retire. Am I right?
Yeah, I know. You might be onto something. But let's see if you can get another point here, Mike. 2016, 2014, I feel like random Union questions are more of your things than a specific season. So last question, though. True or false? Connor Casey scored in back-to-back games on 2 separate occasions.
True.
That is also false. He scored on 3 separate occasions. So, yeah, Mike, you got 1 point there, went 1 for 5. And Ricky, you have a 5-point lead. It is 6-1 in your favor. Before we go into the final category, which is going to be just random American Union questions, so maybe you'll do better, Mike. Predictions for this Sunday's game against the Columbus Crew.
There's a football game played. It will be on Sunday. I may or may not go to the bar to watch it. I will probably not drink. And I will be slightly happy, but a little bit unhappy when I leave the bar.
Fair prediction.
But my prediction is there's a soccer game that will be played, Ricky. And,
okay.
Ooh, gotta win it. Yeah, let's get into that debate, guys. Let's get on. Is it soccer or is it football? But sorry, Mike, for cutting you off.
Did I
ahead,
unintentionally say
how
football?
long do we want to make this podcast?
We're at 33 minutes already, so I know we could probably go another hour.
No, I'm teasing. I don't care. I mean, I think the Crew are probably, and as everybody's picking them to be the best team in the league. So I have low expectations, if I'm being honest. I just want to see, honestly, like, it could end up like what we saw against LAFC last year, right? Where we think we're going up against the best team in the league, and we really prove ourselves that we can hang. So maybe I'm being optimistic or bullish, but I think we could see like a 2-2 draw, and pretty exciting too. So I think they're going to go in, play their game, not be aggressive, even though it's on the road. I think we probably learned lessons that we just got to stick to our game plan, whether we're at home or on the road, and not try to be like adaptive to the opponent. So I think you're going to see the Union play or try to play their high press 4-4-2 diamond, and we'll see where it lands. Right. So we're overdue for some sort of result in Columbus. So let's see.
You would think. You would think. But the last 2 games that we played in Columbus, I mean, the Union played really, really good defensively. They just didn't have anything offensively. And yeah, I do worry if Sergio doesn't start this game. Like, I wasn't overly impressed, like we were talking before the show, with Anthony Fontana up top in the first half. Yeah, he scored a goal in the second half, but look, it's not his natural position. We all know that. And so I do worry that takes away from the Union's attack a little bit. I'd feel a lot better, I feel like, if we had a proper striker up there, but yeah, I think the Union are going to lose. I said that last episode with Chris Doran. 1-0, I feel like, again. Ricky?
I think we're gonna see a very interesting game because it's beginning of the season. You would think normally if this was like a middle of the season game and it's the two clubs that have just come off trophy wins going against each other, you'd be like, oh, this is like a match that could be very interesting. But I feel like we're all gonna think about that LAFC game, like was mentioned, and it's gonna end up like 1-1. These teams are like, we just came off very important games, so they might throw out their full lineups just because it's not like we're in the thick of the season, like I said. But I feel like we could be in a position where it's just like, especially with today's announcement of the U.S. Open Cup being pushed at best right now, where there's like they don't have to worry about doing well right now. So if they want to sacrifice a little bit for that um, Atlanta game or whoever, I believe Columbus plays Monterrey, maybe something like that. That's a huge game, and that's a week and a half away for both of those teams. But I think the Union will see the Miami game next weekend as a more important game in the grand scheme of things. Even though, like Mike mentioned earlier, this could be a big game in getting the top seed or the second seed, because a lot of people have, it's basically a conversation between the Crew, the Union, the Revs, and Orlando, right? That's probably everybody's top 4, top 5, including some other teams. So this could be a very important game, but I honestly think it's got 1-1. Union score like an early goal off of some freak corner kick, and the Crew like get really worried and then tie it in the beginning of the second half, and then both teams are kind of like, yeah, we're cool with this.
Hey, look, the Union scored a set piece. Last game, they never score set pieces, and something went right. Last game against Saprissa, and Casper scores off of that corner kick, so anything's possible, right? But, guys, let's go ahead to close out Season 2 of our Union Trivia podcast, which means, Ricky, all you need is 2 3-point questions, and you walk away with this thing. So, in the final category, contestants will go head-to-head and guessing the Union player I'm describing. I'll give 5 clues, and contestants can buzz in whenever they think they know the player. Contestants will buzz in by saying their own name. If a contestant answers incorrectly, that will freeze them out until the next question. Each question will be worth 3 points each, except for clue 5, which is when I give you guys the player's first name. That will give you just 1 point instead of 3. Now, like I said, the whole show is going to deal with Americans, and this is just going to be random Americans that have played for the Philadelphia Union in their 11 seasons. So, are you guys ready to do this?
Let's go.
Here we go. Player number 1, question number 1. Led the Union in starts in 2016. Hint number 2. Scored his first goal in 2016 for the Union against LA Galaxy.
Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
Is it Rosenberry?
Yeah, it is indeed Keegan Rosenberry. So there's 3 huge points for you right there. Hint number 3 was 2016 MLS All-Star. Hint number 4, currently plays for Colorado Rapids. Hint number 5, first name Keegan. Keegan Rosenberry is that player. So the score is 6-4. Ricky, 2-point lead. Let's go ahead to player number 2. Hint number 1. Played his college soccer at the University of Maryland. Hint number 2. Traded to Colorado in 2015. Hint number 3. 5th overall MLS Super Draft pick in 11. Hint number 4. Currently plays for Real Salt Lake. You guys want 1 point right here? Yes, they do. Here we go. First name, Zachary.
Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
McMath.
Yeah, it is indeed Zach McMath.
So, not thinking keepers.
No. The first keeper I think I've asked all season. And, of course, it has to be Zach Mack. So the score is 6-5. Anybody's ball game. Let's go ahead to player number 3. Hint number 1. With the Union from 2010 to 2012. Hint number 2. His last season in MLS was spent with Toronto. Hint number 3. His only Union goal came against Houston in 2011. Hint number 4. The Union's first ever captain.
Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
Danny Califf?
Yeah, it is indeed Danny. And I did want to played his college soccer at the University of Maryland. When I was looking at this, yeah, the Terps have a lot of players that have played for the Philadelphia Union, which is deep credit to Coach Sasho down there at College Park. But let's go ahead to player number 4, hint number 1. His last team he played for was the Union. Hint number 2. Has represented the United States men's national team 69 times. Hint number 3. Got into a fight with Zlatan while they were teammates at Milan.
Ricky.
Go ahead, Ricky.
Aguche Onyewu.
Yeah, it is indeed Aguchi. The other hints were is a center back and his first name. So, Ricky, 3 points right there. And tallying up the points, because if I'm correct, it's going to come down to player number 5 like it has every single time in this competition. And hopefully I picked a great player here for player number 5. So the score is currently Ricky with 9 points, Mike with 8. So, yeah, it is coming down to this final player. And let's go ahead with hint number 1. Scored on his debut. Hint number 2. Has played for the U.S. men's national team. Hint number 3. Finished second for Rookie of the Year in 2019.
Ricky.
Mike.
Third, Ricky.
Brendan Aronson.
Yeah, it is indeed Brendan Aronson, and that will give you the win. The other hints for that were currently plays for RB Salzburg and first name Brendan. Brendan Aronson is the player. That is the player we are closing out season 2 with. And Mike, I mean, you got the first 3 players right. Ricky, I know, was sweating there a little bit, and Ricky comes and gets the last 2 players and wins this one by a score of 12-8, but what a competition, what a season, and congratulations, Ricky, for redeeming yourself from last season.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about it earlier today because I think one of the things that I remember most getting wrong was a question about Ethan White, and I was just at the gym, and I was like thinking about it, and I'm just like running on the elliptical, and I'm just like, and that moment, Ethan White's name just pops into my head, and I'm like, especially in the last like 5 minutes, like Mike's making this roaring comeback, takes the lead, and I'm just like, oh, well, this is happening again. I build a huge lead and then I lose. But like, I don't know, getting through that semifinal. This is a good final. 2 games in a row where you're like having a good competition. You're beating the guy that apparently had inside information in my quarterfinal, so that was. Like, he's like, oh, I worked for the team. That's a little bit unfair, but...
Hey, I didn't know, to be fair.
I mean, I feel like that has to be, like, a thing in the future. Be like, hey, do you have any, like, more knowledge than a normal person should have on this, like, specific year, even? I don't know. Mike's good competition. I mean... I called him out in my semifinal for his takes on how the game went in Costa Rica. So like, I feel kind of bad again, but like, you know what?
For how the game went.
Yeah, you were all like,
you wanted to play for a 0-0 tie, dude.
Yeah, I did, and I would have been fine.
They went down there and they played their game in Costa Rica.
Yeah, I know. I was
bunker from Park the Bus.
That's my point. I was like, they should bunker, and you were like, no, that's stupid. And then they didn't do that.
And they played their game, and they got a 1-0 away goal and brought it back home and buried them.
The bigger point is we beat Atlanta. It's going to happen. You know, we're all going to be really happy. We're going to play America in the semifinals or Portland. You know, don't say Portland's not going to make. There is no world in which our first leg is down in Mexico City and we're just like, let's go play high pressing soccer, you know? Just saying. Maybe Saprissa was a bad example because they're not a good team.
I guess, but you know, that was the situation at hand.
The main point here is no. This is fun. We should do it again sometime.
Yes.
Maybe we don't invite Todd next time. Everybody else is allowed. Shelby can come. Me and Mike will have a competition. Todd won't be there. It'll be fun. You know,
you guys can host it, right? I'll partake in the competition and get knocked out in the first round. Sound good?
I mean, I'll just ask questions about Americans, and you'll be confused the whole time.
You want to be the first person to say that, I'm sure you won't be the last one to bust my balls about that, so it's all good. But Mike, I mean, like I said, the first 3 players, man, absolutely crushed it, and you were second late on player number 4, and yeah, just what a run you had. You made it all the way to the finals after a good showing last season, and you make it all the way here, and had some tough competition on the way to make it, and you're one of the best Union fans I've had on the podcast. I enjoy talking to you, and to see you stumped in 2016 felt a little bit good, not going to lie, because I thought there was nothing I can't ask Mike, and Mike won't have an answer to.
Yeah, I blanked, but it's all right. I mean, it's all in good fun, and I just, I love that there's other people that love the Union as much as me. So it's awesome to have this sort of contest. So yeah, thank you for running it.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. I appreciate both of you guys saying, yeah, let's sign up again for year 2 and see how I can do. And now I know for sure Ricky's coming back next season to defend his title. Now I know some people have said, yeah, let's do teams, but I feel like Ricky's like, no, I have this trophy. I don't want to lose this trophy because we're doing teams. So I don't know. We'll see. Look, I would love to do 22 people in this competition, but it needs to be people committed. I thought, look, we'll give away a jersey. People will for sure come out and participate in this. When I first did it, people didn't really know who I was on Union Twitter, but they're like, hey, look, no soccer right now. Let's go ahead and do this competition. People were all for it for bragging rights. I'm like, let's throw a jersey in there. Couldn't even get 16 people. We barely got 16 people, and we made it through another season, and what a great final it was. And I'm open for suggestions. So, I mean, you guys listening, you guys participating, you guys that are seeing this on Twitter, whatever it is, I am open to any ideas you guys give me. I like the format. I think the format's really good, but like different questions and everything, categories. You guys have ideas? I'm here for it. The one thing I will say, though, is thank you guys for not doing what Corey Furlan did. Corey's smart. You guys should have picked up on it, too, because, like, in Name the Union Player, he would buzz in, wait like 10 seconds, and then give a player. Like, I never said that in the rules, so I guess technically it could have went. Like, he's right. I never said it. Took advantage of it, and, yeah, Luke beat him, right? But, yeah, I had a blast having Corey on. Had a blast having Luke on, Ricky, Mike, Ed, Rich, Evan, Scott, and oh my God, Harry. And I feel so bad because I try to name all 16 people and I'm forgetting so many people. But
AJ,
yeah, AJ, Luke, yeah, there we go. You beat both the Duper brothers. You ended that podcast. How do you feel, Mike?
As long as I beat the Doopy brothers, I'm marking it down as a W.
It is a W, right? Luke did say if I lose, no more Doopy Brothers podcast. No, he didn't. But yeah, I mean, it was a great season. I appreciate every single person that took part in this competition, retweeted the episodes, got more listens, and hopefully you guys listening enjoyed this competition. And like I said, I would love to bring it back, whether that's teams, whether it's people going head-to-head again. We shall see. But before I let you guys go, where can people find you on social media? Mike, we'll go to you.
Yeah, I'm just on Twitter, Thomas19064. Give me a follow.
And Ricky?
The Twitter is Ricky Rondo, and the Instagram, which, as we all know, it is now soccer season, but most importantly, it is now coaster season, is Ricky_Rondo. Just put out my top 10 coasters list for everybody to scroll through. Have fun with that. It's in my stories. Some people have already looked at it, but, get some looks on that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess Ricky's calling me out. I guess I have to look after the show, right? But if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow @FreeKickPod. Check out the website. Finally put up an article, ladies and gentlemen, about my 2021 Philadelphia Union prediction. So for everybody that looked at that, I appreciate it. And we'll definitely get to more writing, and hopefully you guys enjoy that. Taking it slowly but surely, and hopefully build up that skill. But check out the website, thefreekickpodcast.com, and wherever you get your podcasts, The Free Kick, Todd Lewis. And for the last time, signing off for Season 2. We'll see you guys after the Columbus game. My name is Todd, and this is The Free Kick Podcast.